And I'll just say.
Maybe someday when I go on it, I'll speed it.
I still can't either.
I didn't see anything.
You know,
like-
Maybe it sound like in the new year, like, we have to be here for years.
Yeah, so.
Oh, it's the file name.
Oh, do you want to see what he picked out for his big sister for Christmas?
Oh.
He picked out all by himself.
Okay, that's interesting.
Just a tiny J,
Yeah,
very much.
but that's not,
Get it.
hold on.
Hopefully Mr. Beth's will before we're done. And I can-
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, there's no, that's in the file, that's not in Word docs.
Is the weather?
So that's how it was saved. Is her parent name?
To drive from my house.
Stuff.
Wait.
That'd be her.
Were we?
Wait.
Were we worried about roads?
This cat got online, but seemed like he might.
Caleb may be
Yeah.
online. Drifting.
And-
Caleb may be
And
an
Pat.
Pat.
It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then just
And
kind of
Pat.
watch for Pat.
That is not, not bringing that across the county.
Oh, so he is on.
I thought maybe it was with the town, like they were.
He'll come late.
No.
Oh, he'll be. Okay.
Just.
I know, I read the.
Dustin, did anybody hear anything from Dustin tonight?
I didn't.
Oh, I thought that was last Friday.
Oh, maybe it was.
I thought it was last
week.
Yeah. I saw him leaving as we were talking.
Call the meeting to order. Tonight Caleb Best is online and I don't know about Justin, so he's not here. And Mr. Wagner also is not here at the moment.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no residents requesting to speak tonight, so we'll go straight to our buildings and grounds agenda. First item on that agenda is update on the high school project, the baseball and softball fields, and Mr. Bromierski has that for us.
Thank you and good evening. Just to provide a few updates, I know I shared with you at our last meeting that we had hoped to have a presentation as our goal to have it today in terms of the update with regards to any additional work to the plan. Unfortunately, all of the land development and stormwater work for the entire high school project and everything south of Kaufman Road is still in the works. It is to be finalized by this Friday for submission. So until that is finalized, the Hummer, the group that's working on all the proposals, cannot get us accurate pricing until they see exactly what needs to be done with regards to the land development and stormwater. And I did not want a ballpark project being thrown at us, no pun intended there. But I wanted actual facts as to what needed to be occurred with actual budget information. And so after multiple discussions, we decided that January 13th at our next board meeting, we'll have that, as well as the high school project update with regards to cost. Currently, KCBA and Fidavia, we met today as well as yesterday. Today specifically to iron out any additional questions and or wonderings with regards to square footage from TA versus square footage from entity B and making sure they're identical, as well as they still need the land development information from their civil engineers. So until we get all of that finalized, we don't want to bring just random numbers and having continually changing. But they know the deadline that I set was January 6th, and I'm expecting all the groups to adhere to that so I can provide them here as well as us to all of you an update on January 13th with regards to all of these projects and costs. So. Yeah, Mr. King.
Is it still realistic? I'm hearing a lot of vaguely concerning noise around this project? It's still realistic that we're gonna come in at or under $210 million.
211. Oh.
As, if I were to say today, no.
And are we talking 5, 10, 20, or 50 million over?
Um, I would say at the moment
please
it's-
Tell me I didn't stop too soon. I mean,
You know, you stopped soon enough. The challenge now, honestly, with all of the work in terms of the pricing is all of the stormwater and land development costs, trying to hone in on what exactly needs to be done and the cost associated with that. Those are additional costs, and what of those costs are attributed to the high school project and what are attributed to the other projects on the master facility plan? I know in a sense it's all one pot of money, but when we're talking about the high school project, we are trying to keep things focused on just the high school that pertain to the high school. The only exception to that project is the baseball and softball field because it's a direct domino effect to the high school project. That said, in conversations today, some of the numbers that are included of what we were seeing included things like the stormwater work for the band parking lot. Well, the band parking lot is part of the master facility plan that actually would go under the capital projects plan, not the high school, even though it's all under the same umbrella. But trying to hone into the high school, my hope is that we're in the 10 or less over, but I'm not going to know for sure until I see everything. There's discrepancy in terms of when looking at some of the drawings, the interpretation of the cost of and/or rooms that need to be renovated in the Buchanan side. One firm is saying this is the categories. When another group looks at it, they're saying that's no way that's going to fit in that. So they've got to iron those details out because the cost per square footage for a cosmetic to a minor to a moderate to a major is drastically different. Looking at the designs of the blueprints for the new addition, making sure that the square foot is exact for both groups so that we know exactly what to cost of the cost per square foot. The contingencies that have to be baked into the project cost, those are costs that we may or may not spend. And if we don't spend, those contingencies come back to the district. So one discussion point we're going to have is, are those contingencies in a sense a reserve, or is that all going to be baked into the overall cost? So there's a couple things that we're going to have to iron out as we move forward. But as of right now, it's north of 10 over based on what we're seeing. But again, that's before things are pulled out and really refined. I'm hopeful that it's getting closer, but I won't know more until the 6th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we will move on then to the capital projects plan review. Mrs. James has a follow-up for us.
Good evening. I think you should have a or a sheet. Yep, there we go. So just wanted to kind of update all of you and go back over the capital projects. So what we did here and I'm sure that you've heard us talk about this before, the capital projects are running a kind of parallel to the high school project. What we've done, or what we initially did, is we identified 3 phases of capital projects that have been approved to move forward with continued processing for them. So what you're seeing here is phase 1, that is the completed phase. And what we've done here is we have when we established the items on this, we've established a base or a budget estimate, and we're establishing that working with Fidavia to come up with those budget amounts. And then as we work through it, this is a live document. So what you'll see in the columns for the construction costs are the actual costs for the different projects and so forth. So that's what it's reflecting there. What we're working on now is the phase 2. Phase 2 is going to include the Landisville Primary Center HVAC project, HVAC and lighting project. And then we're also working on the heat pump replacement for East Petersburg. Now that is something that came about that wasn't initially part of these capital reserve projects, but there was a need for this because of a leak in that hot water heater. So it is necessary for us to get that replaced. So that kind of got added to that, the list there. But we're also working on getting some pricing for resurfacing some playground areas. Resurfacing playground areas would be to remove the rubber mulch in 3 of our elementary prototype buildings, and then it would be replaced with a poured-in-place surface. So that's what we're looking at doing in those. And then also evaluating their paving, or their paving of the playground to make sure that that is in adequate repair as well. And then if you go on to the phase 3, you'll see what we have in the works. And that would be, phase 3 would begin the following summer. So phase 2 is going to begin this coming summer, 2026, and which the LPC project will go into the 2026 school year, probably until about the beginning of January, that timeframe, or January sometime. And then the other projects will be completed before the end of the summer. But you'll see in phase 3, then that would be projects that we would be looking at to schedule for the following summer. And our plan here is to continuously work on the next phase. So we're working ahead. We're working to identify what those problems are to best maintain and lengthen the life of equipment and so forth in our buildings and maintain our buildings. Also, we are working on the plans for the stadium field house project that will also be added in. Of course, that will have to come to the board, be evaluated by all of you, and will have to be voted on. But that is going to also be added into the phases here of the cap reserve projects. Any questions? I have Mr. Kelmer on the phone here from Fidavia. I don't know, Chris, is there anything that I missed?
No, I think you covered it. Happy to help and answer any questions if they come up.
Okay.
Just looking ahead on the agenda, we're approving the LPC work tonight under the financial contract. So then you'll be able to get moving on that, right?
Correct. You've already approved the bid and so forth, but this is the actual contract that is on the agenda. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. That brings to an end the buildings and grounds portion of the meeting. Yep. We did. Oh, okay. I was in there. I'm so sorry. Number 4 on the agenda, buildings and grounds action item, the baseball and softball field bleachers quote, the acceptance of that quote. Do I have a motion to accept the quote from Century Industries?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Small. Second?
A second.
Thank you, Director Linton. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Keener?
Yes, why are we spending $250,000 on bleachers?
Is there somebody present that would like
Yep.
to answer that
So
question?
these are the bleachers that will go on the baseball and softball field. We are purchasing them early because the cost will only rise starting January 1st based on the aluminum and what they're made of. The other part to this is those bleachers are also going to be used in the stadium in the fall for the student section. And so that will open up more space in the bleachers for visitors to be in the stadium. So it'll be a dual use purpose. They are on wheels, so they can be moved back and forth between the stadium and then over to the baseball field, in which they will stay from after the fall season for the entire spring piece.
When I was looking through the agenda and I saw this, I almost fell out of my chair. So I sort of did some quick Google searching for bleachers. It appears that a lot of the costs, if these are the ones that I think they are, they're basically a giant trailer that sort of folds up and you can pull them around.
That is correct.
We can buy, at least if the Google is to be believed, we can buy similarly sized bleachers that don't move for like 1/10 of this cost. So it would be cheaper to just buy bleachers for the high school and bleachers for this and forego the movement. I mean, this is why we are over budget on everything. It's like we are getting $250,000 for aluminum benches. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is,
So
a-
I guess I'm curious, what other options did we consider? Why are we making this recommendation? What are some of the other choices?
this is what is recommended to us in terms of what would be able to be used on the field, because we also still have to provide protective layering or floor, if you will. And we need to be able to move them off and not have them, sit in a different location. Dr. Brossman, do you want to share anything else?
Sure. So as Mr. Romersky shared, obviously we're looking at a multi-use option. When we looking at this future stadium project, we have a seating issue for our large events, football games in particular. And there was nothing in the budget or in the plan for adding seating to the stadium. Like in terms of our current seating, we weren't going to redo one side. Like we're just kind of doing the bare minimum to our current seating to make sure everything's ADA compliant and up to code. So this option was explored for end zone seating to get the student section out of the current seating to provide that seating that we need to get people actually into the stands and not all around the bench. So that's where this idea of dual use came from. When we talked to Hugh Cadzow, who's our representative from ELA, if we were to actually add seating to the stadium, the cost per seat of adding seating to a stadium is similar to what the cost of these items are. And then the other piece that he explained to us as well is with the baseball and softball project, if we were to put permanent bleachers at the baseball or softball stadium, that then by code requires us to add bathrooms out there as well. And so being able to have something that moves season to season and can withstand that seemed to be the best option. That's how we went down this path, which is, I think, the question you're asking.
Thank you.
Dr. Brossman or Mr. Verbinsky, can you remind me what the expected life time, like how long these last? Has that been shared?
I don't have that information. I can get it. Did anything when you were working through this?
I'd have to pull up the quote.
That's fine. Thank you.
Hang on, I can check.
I understand that this was a recommended option, but did we receive any other quotes or was this the only one?
This is the company that was recommended that we get it from based on the availability from a timing standpoint, as well as the ability for them to be able to move. And so this was the one that under CoStars that's already pre-bid. So this is where we got. This came from the engineers. No, this is it. This is the one we got. It's the engineers. Yes.
Also, that's why I believe in October, we approved for the national, it's not CoStars, but it's like a national CoStars cooperative purchasing. That's what this company goes through. It's kind of a niche product. I understand you did your Google search. I've been looking for end zone bleachers for a number of years, even before this project started. There's not too many other people that make this type of product that's as portable as what we're looking to have, something that Mrs. James's crew can actually move from one facility to another.
Yeah. I mean, and to be clear, Dr. Bachman, I didn't go to Amish bleachers built to order.com. I mean, there were like the ones that I saw appeared to be professionally manufactured, ADA compliant, all of those things. Now, I am not an expert on bleachers by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, if we need seating, we have a wonderful baseball and softball team. We have a wonderful student section. They need places to sit. I'm not disputing that. But it sounds like we didn't do some aggressive drilling down on this. Did the purchasing folks involved in this? Did they get bids? I mean, so like, why are we not following our purchasing procedures and going out and getting multiple bids?
So we worked with ELA, who is our consultant for the project. We relied on them to help us we found this product. They looked at this product, evaluated this product, looked for alternatives to this product, and this was the best they could come up with.
Some of my questions were answered, but I do have a fundamental question. When you mentioned about moving some of these bleachers to the high school stadium to add extra seating, Are you planning to move both of these
Yes.
sets there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Correct.
There are, one thing that wasn't mentioned, there are stairs that go up on either end of the bleachers, and there are rails that go across the front for protection. There are also stairs that go, there's a connecting piece and stairs that go up the center. So all of that will be moved, be able to be moved. These two sets will be connected together when they are used in the stadium. So, and these are the, remind me of the capacity of each of these. Is it
It's 300 each.
300 each? Okay, I was gonna say 250, but it's, okay, 300 people each.
And I think the point you made, if you want to reiterate that, the fact that if we had them permanent, we would then need to build and plumb and run lines for bathrooms over to both the baseball and the softball fields. Is that correct?
That's how ELA explained it to us. Yes. So
Did we verify that? Because our current baseball and softball field don't have restrooms. I mean.
But they don't have, do they have permanent bleachers?
They do not. So those bleachers are on stone. And as we move to a new field and working on that with under land development, so you have the ability to do 1 acre's worth of work. When you go beyond that 1 acre, you're subject to everything in terms of the requirements, permitting up to new codes. And the reason they are designed the field the way they did was to minimize the need to put in additional restroom facilities. So when you have those permanent structures, that's what's going to trigger it in terms of from a township requirement. So right now, the way it's designed, it's a flat concrete pad in that these bleachers will be able to sit on and then move. Anything beyond that, if we're going to start to build any other structures, we are going to subject ourselves to more, which is we're trying to minimize that ability. The challenge right now from a field standpoint, we can certainly get regular bleachers and put them there. That's not going to solve the problem that we're trying to do from a dual standpoint to address the stadium component. And so as we were trying to hit both, what do we need?
Right, and I understand that. I get that 100%. And thank you for clarifying that the bathroom and restroom requirement isn't triggered unless we have permanently built bleachers, okay? But my point is, I would like to see quotes if we would get static bleachers that we could put on pads, one set for the baseball, softball field, another set for the stadium. And then when the stadium is done, we can figure out what we want to do with the stadium set. I'm sure we can find some place to use them, or we can sell them. I would bet that we can get all 4 of those for a lot less than $258,000. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to support this. But before we vote on this, I would like to see what that alternative would cost.
So one challenge with the stadium component is we have to move it off the field right after the football season, because through the spring season, they have to be moved. So we can't keep bleachers out on the field. They have to be able to be portable and move off. And so we also have to have the equipment to be able to do that. Do we currently have equipment to be able to move bleachers?
No.
So we'd have to purchase additional equipment on top of that. What type of equipment would we have to purchase to move bleachers?
Well, they're not made to be moved, so they won't withstand a move. That they're just like the bleachers that we have out here currently on the baseball field. They're not made to be moved. So
move them, but they're not made to be moved.
right, so they wouldn't withstand the move. It would not be, it wouldn't pass inspections and so forth. It wouldn't be safe for people to sit on if we were to be moving those around.
Okay.
And when it comes to people on those bleachers, anything new that we add from a safety standpoint at a certain height has to be fenced and railed, correct?
Yes, correct.
Are there any other questions on this?
I don't know. It sounds like a lot of due diligence has gone in with all these different factors. It sounds like there's so many different factors from township, things to the movability to the how do we use our money in the best way, possible. To me, it sounds like a savings to do this, not to buy more product and then not have the ability to move them. So
This was also looked into several years ago with regards to, and I don't have the exact price, I'm trying to search for it, but previous CFO looked into this, to purchasing bleachers. And Dr. Brossman, do you recall what the price was at that point?
They were 100 grand a set.
200.
And we have to get two, yes.
And so we're at about 250.
Yeah. Does this have to be voted on tonight, or can we do it? I would disagree that I feel like we heard a recommendation from ELA, ran with that recommendation, and maybe did not push back on less expensive alternatives. So I would like to see more due diligence and more alternatives here. Because this is a shockingly expensive amount of money for aluminum benches. I mean,
We were informed that January 1st, the price of aluminum is going up, and this quote is only good and through the end of the month. So,
We're going to buy them. Ultimately, we will pay more.
I mean, it's up to the board.
And that was part of the decision making, was
Correct.
before the cost goes up
Yes.
to make that decision. And you're saying that the 200,000-ish was quoted a few years ago?
I wasn't.
I'm just asking about the timing of that, like that something has only gone up 50,000 in, I want to know the time frame. Seems actually less than I would think.
I will see what I can find. We can certainly come back to this.
I mean, again, the ones that I saw, which appeared to be ADA compliant, had the railings, had little fences in the back so people can't fall off, were in the neighborhood of 20,000 per.
Same seating
unit.
capacity?
Huh?
Did it have the same seating capacity of 300 full?
I believe so, but again, I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just do random Google. I mean, it's not like I found things that were $205,000.
Right.
We're talking orders of magnitude difference.
Understood, but it still doesn't satisfy the portability issue and whether or not we would need the restroom facilities.
Mrs. Brady, I'm sorry. I think the point I'm making is that if the portability thing is the deciding factor, we literally can buy 2 complete sets that aren't as portable for far less money than this.
Yes, I understand, but at that point, then we're triggered into having to put bathroom facilities in.
No, apparently if you just sit
No.
on a pad, that doesn't trigger that. Is that what Mr.
That's my understanding. I reached
Yeah.
out to our civil engineer to see if he's available, if he's on, or can hop on a quick call.
Okay.
And I'm trying to search for.
I'm not ready to get in the weeds of stopping this from moving forward. However, I would say that as just a general statement, I always expect that we vet these contracts, we push them to lower their price, we buy them at the right time. And so I'm going to take a high level approach to this and say, if you overspent 50,000 here, you're going to have 50,000 less somewhere else. So it's going to come back to haunt you if you haven't done your due diligence when it comes to each and every one of these contracts and each and every spend. And in that respect, I'm not willing to continue to pour money into things if I feel like we haven't vetted it well. And I'm not suggesting we didn't in this case, but I also see Mr. Keener's point that unless you put them in the ground with concrete, they're considered portable. His point is if you can buy 10 of them for the price of 2 that move with a few wheels on them, and then we have to purchase equipment so that I don't know what that equipment costs, but that would always be nice to know if we have to buy additional equipment whenever something comes before us, because it's similar to some other things where we buy one thing and then, we need 5 other things to manage that one thing. To Mr. Keener's point, he's not totally wrong at all. If you buy 4 sets of bleachers and we don't put them in the ground, we can discard them and throw them out at the end, and we might be further ahead than the ones that we buy that are portable and that we have equipment wrapped up in. So I'm not total, I see your point. I just don't know that this is enough to stop it. And I'm just always suggesting that we vet these contracts to the nth degree and we think of outside the box of, we need them portable. As long as they're not concreted fast, they're considered portable. As long as they're on dirt or slab or on stone, they're portable.
Okay. Okay.
And so did we do that? I'm trusting we did. I'm not ready to stall this based on, the fact that maybe we didn't, but as a caution, I would feel better if I know that all those different avenues were vetted.
Thank you.
And I think there's an easy solution to this. I think we table this until January, ask the administration to come back with a couple of other options. Like I said, I could be completely wrong on this. I don't know. I do know that this is a lot of money. I do know that the project, it already sounds like it's gonna go way over budget. And I know that we are right up against the edge of our borrowing limit based on the current CBA and based on the original $210 million threshold.
Here's my reason for not wanting to wait, because there's risk with that. The risk of, well, we might save some dollars and maybe we find out 4 is better, but because they cost more as of January 1,
Right.
that's the wild card for me.
And that is, I agree that that is a risk.
Should we move to the vote and see if there's enough people that want to move it forward at this point?
If I can just ask
Yeah.
Dr. Rossman one more question. Dr. Rossman, can you just share how many months have you been working on this?
Well, we started looking at these last summer with Mr. Katzow. I was able to find some old pricing from 23, and they were about $7,500 less two full years ago. So you asked how much they were. In 23, they were 117.60. I'm sorry, 117,635 for one set. And our current is, I think, 120. So I don't have the 124. So that's how much they've gone up in the last 2 years. We're being told they're going to go up more again in January. I'm not trying to scare. I'm just trying to share the numbers that I have in front of me.
I wish we could have had this quote a meeting or two ago.
We do
So we
too.
would have had an opportunity to look at this before we were up against the January 1 deadline, because my question would be, how much are they going to go up in January? Do we have a little bit of time to look at these, to consider another option? We really don't have that luxury at this point.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. We were asking for this. They had to go back multiple times to get updates and changes on the quotes. And then when we had the board approve us to be able to put on the new
Co-stars.
in the sense national stars. We were under the impression, and I think I shared this at last, that all of the work with baseball field was included on those documents that the board approved. And what we discovered, thanks to Mrs. Hall and digging in and looking at that, is it was not included on that original piece, which is why it was brought. So we thought it was based on the documents, but we learned from all of the work that's been done on the baseball field that there were things that were not provided to Hummer, who's going to be doing this, to be able to give us the accurate costs. And so that piece, because it wasn't there, which is why this was brought back, and the deadline is approaching. So I agree with everything you're saying in terms of the time.
And I take it that no one in all these comprehensive bid reviews noticed that there were no bleachers included? Okay.
I understand Mr. Best has a question.
Hi, yeah, sorry. So I think I'm kind of leaning towards waiting as well. I don't feel like the price would go up too much in January, because considering price from 23 was only $7,500 cheaper. I hate to do the, what is it? So, or couch quarterback, looking up Google stuff, but it looks like aluminum prices are only raising about 1% every month. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge increase. And then another question that I had is, with this moving and everything else, what's the maintenance like? What's the life cycle of this equipment? Is it going to last us for 10 years, 20 years, or is it like after 5 seasons of moving around all the time, it's going to be, basically scrap?
Mrs. James, do you have any answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know the exact lifespan of it. I know that these are designed specifically to move. They have very large, I'm told they have very large tires on them, and that is the function of these. So, but I don't know exactly the lifespan or the life expectancy of
A point of clarity that I'd like, because I heard a couple of different things as far as these that are in the quote and the ability to move them. Do we currently have equipment to move these, but not ones that would be not on wheels,
Yes.
movable?
So these would be moved with a pickup truck.
Okay, so
And
no
co-
new equipment needed to move them.
Correct.
Okay,
Which keeps
thank
the-
you for clarifying that.
and this might be a little bit of fuzzy math to Mr. Best's point, but 1% per month times, if my math is right, 2 years, 24 plus months, against that number is a $54,000 potential increase if things have gone up 1% in 2023 to the current date.
Yeah,
Give or take.
it's really only been the last couple year or the last year that prices have been skyrocketing, also with tariffs.
All right.
And could. Oh,
Mr.
thank
Keno, go
you.
ahead.
Thank you. Could we just ask them to hold this quote, say if the board is not quite ready to make a decision, and ask them to hold this quote until January while we do a little bit more digging into potential alternatives? And I mean, if they want our business, they would likely do that.
I think Mr. Bomerski has shared that Mr. Kadzo is on his.
He's driving. So if we just move on the agenda to the next item, he will be logging into the meeting as soon as he can get on, and we can come back to it at the end of the meeting for additional discussion with him, and he can provide some more information to be able to answer some of your questions. Since he's the engineer who worked on this.
Okay.
Do we
Then
need to do anything procedurally?
just a Point of
Yeah.
order, we should withdraw the motion that was made, because we really can't move on while the motion is pending. And then
Right,
just
correct.
someone can remake the
Okay.
motion later if that's what they wish.
I
to
believe that was Mrs. Small. Are you willing to withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. Okay, and now we move on to finance.
Yep, with that, we're going to move on to the finance portion of our meeting tonight, and we have our auditor with us, Kimberly Wetzel from Myers Patsy and Associates. Thanks for being here. Just go.
It'll come around.
Yeah. Yeah, just go for it.
He's new.
He'll turn
Maybe
it.
just pull it in closer to your mouth.
You. So, to introduce myself again, I'm Kimberly Wetzel. I'm the partner in charge of the engagement for Hempfield School District's annual audit. This is our 4th year of performing the audit services on our contract. And if I was going to say, you know, how was this year's audit different than prior years? One would be, well, some of that federal money from ESSER is now, you know, has been spent and we're moving on. So it was interesting in that aspect. And there's been some turnover over the last couple of years and then more recently. So I would really like to just take a moment to say how engaged everybody in the business office was as part of the audit process, the commitment from all the staff members that were in direct contact with on a regular basis. And you'll have to help me with her last name, Lydia. She did a lot of heavy lifting at the end, which was very helpful. And I just wanted to express how we appreciate it from the auditor's standpoint, because it makes the audit efficient and to move along. So thank you. So the results of the audit, so we haven't quite yet issued to give a period of time to review the draft, do some edits on management's discussion analysis and review notes to the financial statements, but essentially, you know, we've formed our opinion at this point. And it is a clean opinion on the financial statements, where, as the CPA say, unmodified. We also give a report on supplementary information. That would be the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which is also unmodified. As part of the audit, and having a single audit, we give a report on internal control called the Yellow Book Report, and we give a report on compliance with major programs. And we did not have any findings to report. The major programs listed on the slide was last year's major program. The current year's major programs included the special education cluster and ESSER. And then going forward, there would likely be a rotation, because there's a 2-year look back period for selecting major programs with whether or not large programs have been audited. So there are 3 consistently large programs for the school district, including the child nutrition cluster, the special education cluster, and Title I. So audit risk assessment. I bring this up every year because the AICPA and our standards and our model for how to conduct an audit really rely heavily in the planning, the field work and the conclusion phase, and then also that communication with governance about the audit on risk assessment. The entity, the school district's assessment of risks, our own assessment of audit risk areas or factors that play into how should we design the audit, and then carry out what procedures we would perform or what additional procedures we would perform. In the current year, we have a change in accounting principles. So that is going to be reflected in where we allow additional time to look at those items that pertain to that change in accounting principles and the implementation piece. We've always considered for all of our school district clients payroll transactions to be in a risk area because of their complexity, either with pension, which is considered complex, and OPEB liabilities, but also just the nature of the payroll transactions for a school district are complex on their own. For one, you might have multiple bargaining units plus individual contracts. There's different pay frequencies or pay periods for the type of personnel, whether you're a teacher and you're paid at a contract, or you may be an administrator and paid a salary. So all of those things are factored into our testing and the amount of work we do in those areas. We also consider areas with cash transaction in the form of currency to be higher risk. And so we're going to perform procedures, even if they're not material to your financial statements overall, to look at payments that are made from those funds and also deposits into those accounts. So those typically are going to be in food service, student activities, and other things, some other small things, but those are the two major ones. AICPA says improper revenue recognition and management override of controls is always going to be an audit risk area, so those are always included. So I've presented here, this is the governmental activities. So from the school district as a whole, all of its governmental funds, the general fund, the capital reserve fund, capital projects fund, and debt service are combined. And in this reporting, we include long-term assets and long-term liabilities. The most significant long-term asset for the school district is the capital assets, although we also have other non-current assets for leases receivable where the school district is a lessor. And then on the liability side, we're going to be adding in long-term debt. Associated with the school district's long-term debt, there are some items that are called deferred inflows and deferred outflows that are added in for this presentation. I think most significant, looking at this as a trend to see overall, is you have an increase in cash and investments. So for the fiscal year 2025, there was $15 million in new bond proceeds for your capital plan. And then in addition, we have a jump in the compensated absences. So this is the change in accounting principles for compensated absences that's causing this increase here. So was there that much of a change from the prior year? No. The change is generally consistent with the prior year. You can see more detail of that in the financial statements and the notes to the financial statements. But overall, the liability is much higher. Previous to the new accounting standard, it was permissible, but to value days once eligibility was met and at the rate it would be paid out at retirement or termination. So if that rate was $95 a day or $50 a day, and you were only looking at a certain number of employees that had eligibility, you can see how that would be much lower than every employee that's going to carry over days. If it's more likely than not, that's the standards threshold, that they would be available to be used or could be used for time off. It would be valued at their rate of pay. So when we take into account the number of days that are accumulated and available times daily rates or hourly rates, the liability was approximately $23 million. Beyond that, there's consistency from year to year amongst other categories. But if there aren't any questions relating to this slide, we can move on to the next one. So this is the business type activities, which includes just the food service fund. Again, operations were consistent with trends, budgeting, and the size of the food service operations. So the amounts for the balance sheet at year end are consistent with prior years. The only change reflected here is there's an increase in compensated absence liability because of the change in accounting principle. So to go into a little bit more detail, this is just the general fund rather than all governmental funds. And a look at revenues, expenditures, and other changes to fund balance over the last 5 years. Where you see the ending fund balance doesn't equal the next year's beginning fund balance, that was for restatement. For the current year, total revenues in the general fund were $155 million. And I have some additional slides that look at budgetary performance to get into a little bit more detail. But as you can see, the trend is local revenues have been up. This is driven primarily from real estate taxes. State revenues are up, and this has been the factor that's always hard to predict when there isn't a set state budget at the time of the school district's budgeting. And then on the expenditure side, the look back for the last 5 years is skewed by ESSER expenditures, but it's going to be consistent with contracted increases for payroll and benefits. Generally, over the last few years, the PSERS rate has been consistent compared to, let's say, the last 10 years, and debt service. So debt service generally is going to show as these transfers out, which is approximately 10 million, except that we do show some in the general fund. The piece of debt service shown in the general fund is for leases, and it doesn't go to a debt service fund. So those are the annual lease payments, principal and interest for iPads in total, and they're on like a 3-year cycle. And then also there is debt service payments on copiers. So overall, the change in fund balance for the current year was 6 million, and you'll see some of the positive variances, budgetary performance on the next couple of slides that factor into that number, and ending fund balance was 35.46 million. The food service fund operations, again, similar to the activity on the balance sheet being consistent from year to year, that is a result of the revenues and expenses in the fund being consistent with the size of their operations. I think the most interesting line to look at is on the supply side, where that factor of what does food cost? You can see that increase, a significant increase from 23 to 24, but that it's a little bit more stable from 24 to 25. On the revenue side, the federal revenues are up. There's increases in reimbursement rates and also number of meals served and what plan that the school district's in for the National School Lunch Program. We can go to the next slide. So now we're getting to the piece that I was mentioning about budgetary performance. So on the revenue side, total revenue is $155 million. The variance to the budget is positive, and it's a $5 million surplus. The most notable things, so for local revenues, which would be from real estate taxes down to other local revenues, that's a combined budgetary surplus of $3 million. There's smaller amounts in different categories, but I think if you look, you can see under delinquent real estate taxes, 563,000, real estate transfer taxes, 473,000. Those, to some extent, are not going to be predictable because they're going to be dependent upon market conditions. And a lot of instances, the delinquent taxes become paid when the properties that have been delinquent for a while have been sold. So they'll, at times, fluctuate together. In addition to that, there is a budget surplus on the earned income tax side, but I think this final amount is consistent with economic indicators. And there is a budget surplus of $600,000 on earnings on investment. So it was pretty close to prior years, but there's been some cash and the rate of return that has been managed by the school district on those accounts has been better than budget. So 0.5% could make a significant difference on in this area. For state revenues, $2.4 million surplus. The most of this is realized from adjustments from, okay, well, right now we think it's going to be same as last year for basic ed or special ed, and then the final amounts come in higher. So there's budgetary surplus on basic ed, special ed, and then there were some additional programs this year that weren't there in prior years. We could go to the next slide. So for expenditures, some of that surplus, especially when you get to the state revenues, federal revenues, they flow to being spent on the expenditure side to an extent. And I think we can see that on the special ed line. So there is actual special programs expenditures were approximately $30 million. The budget was around 28, but there was also that additional special education funding from the state. Within special programs, areas that were not included in the original budget, where there was additional costs, $2.1 million in emotional and autistic support programs. And then there was a smaller variance, but significant, of approximately $425,000 for life skills. Under operations and maintenance, there's a surplus here, and it's primarily in payroll and benefits. So through the hiring process, you're going to budget to be fully staffed and anticipate being fully staffed, but with turnover and time to fill roles, it can create these surpluses. For facilities, there was a budget for facilities of $1.5 million, but most, if not all, the costs were then planned to be spent out of the capital reserve fund and not the general fund. Debt proceeds, I highlight this because it is kind of just a technical accounting item and a newer standard that was implemented is the iPad leases. So each year when they show up, there's no budget for those items. There's a budget for the payments that has been made, but there has a matching revenue and expense, so they offset each other. We can go to the next slide. So different than my last year's presentation, I pulled in a trend information on the internal service fund and healthcare. So, and this is just the last 4 years. But you can see, if we looked at medical claims, 24 over 25, I want to say it's around 5.5%, maybe a little bit more. And that's consistent with the healthcare cost trend data that's used in the OPEB reports. So it's kind of matching those assumptions there, which I think is a good thing to look at. It's up, but it's up in relation to where actuaries would put a year-over-year increase. There's also the medical claims shown are net of any stop loss reimbursement. Charges to other funds are going to be charges to general fund and the food service fund for employees. So it's kind of the school district charges a benefit rate to itself to have the funds available to pay medical claims and vision and dental. The ending net position, should say position, is $1.5 million. So the change is negative, but this is a good way to manage the overall general fund budget, is to say, okay, we're charging based off and know that some years will be good and some years will be bad as far as what is the actual claim experience. And to have that unknown, that risk be absorbed by the fund rather than to hit the general fund budget, which could then impact whether or not you're maintaining compliance for maintenance of effort on special education programs or instruction overall or budgetary spending. And then just a couple slides left of implemented standards. So the standards that were effective for this year's audit was GASB Statement 100 for accounting changes and corrections of an error. That statement gives a little guidance on what should be disclosed in the notes, how it should be presented in the financial statements. Some slight differences. It's not too drastically different than what it was before. GASB Statement 101 for compensated absences and GASB Statement 102 for certain risk disclosures. Pending financial standards, GASB 103 financial reporting model improvements and GASB 104 disclosure of certain capital assets. These might not have a large impact on the school district's financial statements for next year, but they will have to be implemented. And then I just have my contact information, and I'm open to any questions if anybody has any questions about the audit.
It's not necessarily a question about the audit. Thank you for everything, and thank you to the business office for the way you've invested these funds and you've managed them wisely so that we're not treading water and losing dollar. I want to just go back to slide 6 and just ask, and I think I know the answer to this, but want to understand, one of the largest increases under expenditures was instructional services that went from $91 million and change to $96.4 million, which is an increase of about $5.3 million. What went into that? If you look at the trends over the years, we did have a spend that was maybe close to that back in 2021, 22, but traditionally we go up $1 million to $3 million a year, maybe a little bit more. What drove that this year?
I'd be happy to answer. So piece 1 is going to be what we saw on the other slide for special programs, which is included there. So $2 million, that's emotional support and autistic support of that number. The remaining portion is going to align with salaries and just changes year over year for salaries. There was also some additional costs in fiscal year 25 related to other IU services outside of emotional support and autistic support. So a lot of it is driven by special ed. Yes.
And wasn't that also the first year of the new CBA? Would that be part of it?
I would think so, based on your answer.
Yeah.
That's correct.
My second highlight would be slide 8. And I think I know the answer to this, but just that $2.4 million of investment income. That included and was related primarily to the fact that we've been able to put some dollars aside and they were invested, including the 15 million that we borrowed and then invested at a higher interest rate. Is that accurate?
So it does not include borrowings
Okay.
because it's
it-
general fund only.
Right.
And all the borrowings are in the capital projects fund.
Where did the income from the investment of that 15 million land? Did it land in that 2.4 million? Or was that 2.4 million specifically related to our capital fund investments or
The
some other investment?
4 million
The
is
general fund.
specifically related to cash and investments held in the general fund
Okay.
that are available. So depending on the time of year and the timing of cash flows, it goes
Okay.
up and down. The primary investment vehicle has been the certificates of deposit. And then in addition to that, there's other highly liquid accounts that are allowable under the code. But if anyone, I've probably covered most of it.
So that does not include the 15 million that we borrowed and reinvested, correct?
Those earnings go in the cap reserve fund.
They go in the
This is
cap
general.
reserve, so they would be buried in that increase in the cap reserve.
So
Okay.
we collect a lot of our income tax upfront.
Yeah.
So we have people who pay early. So we have a lot more cash on
And
hand.
that
we're-
investment,
So it's invested and that's your interest income.
okay, got it. Thank you.
There was similar investment earnings though, in the capital projects fund. So there's more, there's additional investment earnings in the capital projects.
Just stays
Yeah.
with that capital fund.
Right, it has to, yes.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I have some. First off, great, very happy that business office is doing such a great job. At first, I just like Mr. Wolgemuth, I thought that 2.4 million was because of our, the investing strategy with the borrowing, but to hear that that's separate, that's even better. Like we're doing great in the general fund and great in the capital reserve fund. So that's awesome to hear. Real quick on slide 10, the internal service fund. So just to clarify, there are more claims coming out of the fund than are going in, than the revenues going into the fund year after year, but we're still in a positive balance. Is that a correct statement? Like we're not having to borrow from other funds to get to service this?
Correct. So the charges to other funds or to employees as payroll deductions or to retirees to maintain healthcare benefits, all of those amounts go into this fund. The per employee cost is charged similar to a premium, charging yourself. And those rates are developed with the assistance of the plan administrator and the group that works with the health insurance. So overall, there have been some claims experience that are negative, but there's still been enough money set aside in this fund to cover those high dollar claimants.
But it does seem like every year this fund is going over budget 1.5 to 2.5 million dollars. Right?
Well, it's been 66,000 in 23.
Got it.
And 500,000 this year. So what would happen if the fund had a net deficit overall? There wasn't enough money in the fund. You would have a couple options. You could borrow from the general fund and food service fund if you felt like the claims experience was going to improve, or you would have an additional assessment in essence, retroactively increasing the premium rate charged to other funds in order to maintain a balance in that fund.
Okay, so the lines that say net deficit, that's actually the balance of the fund.
Correct. It should
Okay.
say net
Yep.
position. It's a typo.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. It's always thorough. It's good to hear words like consistency and things like that coming from our finances. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to B, contracts. These are contracts that will be coming to the regular board meeting on January 13th, and we're listed for review. There's a lot, I mean, a lot of them have to do with Life Touch at the different buildings. Any questions on any of these?
I had one.
Yep.
It seems we're switching to an alternate photographer for senior portraits with
Yes.
Katie. Can we just get a little more information about what led to that, or
Sure.
where this firm came from?
Life Touch is stopping that service for all seniors, so all school districts had to seek an additional vendor. It's not anything that we pay, we just set up the contract. So a team worked on reviewing and meeting with different vendors in terms of looking at the services and what they could provide. Different groups submitted proposals, and the team elected to go with Katie, as well as many other districts in the county. They feel like that's the stronger entity.
Do we have any idea how the prices compare to what Life Touch was and Prestige was
Off the
offering?
top of my head, I do not. I would venture to say comparable, just having gone through all of that.
I have one question. There's a new contract, and this is for Dr. Dandridge. Newzella, if I said that correctly. Help me understand what a one semester subscription for this is. I don't remember hearing about this before. What is the value of that spend?
So it is a product that is used in our classrooms to differentiate reading levels of articles. So you can take the same article and with a click of a button have a higher reading level, lower reading level, reading the same content. So it's a tool that we have used in some of our classrooms in the elementary and middle school. They were able to look at a pilot price for access to the high school, and that's what that contract represented.
So this is just like a one semester trial, essentially? Okay.
Correct.
So if they decide that it's worth continuing, is there going to be like a long-term pricing that we're going to be looking at, or?
There's nothing there. We would have to take that through the budget process if that's something that they determine that we wanted to continue with. Correct.
Okay.
And compare other products that we currently use to see what can go in its place if it's more effective than something else.
And yeah, I guess
Well, yeah.
as part of that negotiation process, obviously trying to get the best bang for our buck.
Yeah. At this point, we can speculate what usage might look like at the high school, but we don't know. So the idea with this pilot is to be able to find out if it is a product that would make sense in our classrooms, or if we could use other products to get the same benefit out of that.
How are you measuring the success of this at the other levels? The use of it, for that matter, is it being used?
We do have usage rates, and we have seen great usage with the product. I don't have any of that at my fingertips, but I can certainly look to gather some of that for you.
And it was part of the conversation we had when the request came in from the departments to try it at the high school, was how are you going to measure it? What's it going to look like? Not only usage, but the effectiveness within the classroom. So Mrs. Dicely is working with the team to monitor that and provide those updates.
What I ask is that we have an update, and what that will do is remind us that this is a contract and a trial, and it doesn't just become part of the DNA without any accountability around the ROI on this.
Yep.
And, you know, I have to ask this question, and you're gonna want to reach over and touch me figuratively, but is this something that would be part of the Savas program, or is this something totally different than that?
Totally different.
Okay.
That's not part.
And am I correct that because they have seen success at other levels, the high school wanted to try this? I remember asking Mrs. Dicey some questions about that.
Yeah, I believe if my memory serves me right, we have a 3-year contract for it at the other levels. So we've been using it for a couple of years with great success in the classroom. So you are correct. That's what led to the conversation about whether or not we could make use of it at the high school. They were able to get a pretty discounted rate to explore that as a pilot before making any decisions about whether we want to make a larger financial commitment to that product.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, we're going on to finance action items. these are items B through E. These are the contracts that we've seen at previous meetings and we discussed. Even Mrs. James spoke to two of them this evening, and there was also the trash and recycling one. We have financial reports, the food services financial reports, and then financial transactions for the district. Do I have a motion to approve those contracts? Or those action items? I'm sorry.
So moved.
Thank you, Makai. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Judy. All right. And you'll see the schedule of upcoming meetings. Please just take.
We have to vote on
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Vote on that. Those or any discussion. Sorry. Didn't seem like it. All right, then we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
What are we voting on? Sorry, I have-
Financial action item.
6B.
B through E.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Is Huey?
Yep, he was available and online. Dr. Rossman, going to come back up. Hugh, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. So just a reminder for the board, Hugh is with ELA, the civil engineers. We're working with all the contractors to design the different work with regards to stadium project, field, land development, water, all of that. Hugh, there were some questions regarding the bleachers for the baseball and softball fields with respect to the amount, and are there other options that we can pursue, for example, of a lesser value and or ones that could be just sitting on the bleacher pad at the baseball and softball field, as well as just in the stadium, and then move them out of the stadium when they're no longer needed? And why are these the better ones, and what other ones were considered, were other questions that were asked? So if you could
Okay,
provide-
can I guess, okay, for some reason it's blanking out everything when I look at it. Okay, the portable bleachers, there's portable bleachers, which are bleachers you can pick up with like a fork, a tractor or something like that, that are normally, a low number of seats, maybe 20, 30 bleachers or so. And then the situation when it comes to wheeled bleachers, often for portability's sake, the sizes are also limited. But what you're dealing with there would be essentially like a wheel kit that would be attached to the quote unquote portable bleachers. And this is something that if you would have, say, you're using the bleachers over at one of the fields at Kaufman Road, you could move it across the field rather, gingerly, because these, the structure isn't really made to be carried around too much. Then set down and the wheels either taken off, or some actually have kind of like a folding system that'll drop it. In this case, there was a couple factors weighing in, was the number of seats that was desirable to relocate the student section out into the D area, which was I think I'm trying to remember that number total off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I just literally stepped in the house here, so I think it's 400 or so total.
Typically, our student section's around 450 students on a Friday night.
Okay, so yeah, that was the amount of seats that were being had to be considered. So again, factoring into that the thought process with grandstands at the softball field as well as the baseball field, the other type of grandstands, which would be smaller and would not have real portability, would have to be carried by some type of equipment like a tractor or so, which
to the best of my knowledge, like a forklift type thing. To the best of my knowledge, the district doesn't really have that. The equipment to carry that, to carry those over there. If you would, to go from where the D area is there, at the stadium.
I'm sorry, so Mrs. Grant came in, I'm gonna stop you there. So how much would these other ones, don't worry about moving, how much would these other static bleachers that we could just put in a concrete pad, how much would each of those units cost? I mean, I'm sure that you did a comparative cost analysis before recommending the $250,000 option, right?
The 475, 450 seats for, portable bleachers, roughly going at 450, roughly 450 times per seat. You're probably dealing over $200,000 to get that number of seats, because you deal with a price about 450 per, on average, because the prices have gone higher with aluminum. So
I'm sorry, where did you find that number? Because we did some admittedly very quick research and found what appeared to be comparably sized units, but without the portability, for in the low tens of thousands.
for 450 seats.
300, which is what we were told these were. We were told these were 300 seats.
Right, there are 2 units. Each unit seats 330 students is what's on the quote for this unit. The 450 number is how many students are in our student section. So that's how you.
I'm just going to say again, I don't think we should vote on this tonight. It's clear that our ELA doesn't even seem to fully grasp the scale of the project. So I
don't
Well,
know
I
an accurate statement to say they don't grasp the scope of the project.
pardon me.
I don't know if it's a fair statement to say they don't grasp the scope
Well,
of the
we're hearing
project.
different numbers than we heard 15 minutes ago.
Again, he was brought on at the last minute here and it just,
With all due respect, he's also the engineer who made these recommendations.
But this is based on a Google search that you just did. So I just want to put that out there, where they've been working on this for a long time and doing their due diligence. And it sounds like things that aren't considered portable to make them portable now needs things like wheel kits that need attached and detached and equipment that we don't have to move them. So
Mrs. Usher, could I ask you a question, please? Hugh, do you happen to know what the life expectancy is of the ones that are on, that were being quoted right now?
I would think, from my understanding, with just standard bleachers like this, would probably be 20 to 30 years, depending on maintenance. Normally, I mean, there's standards bleachers, because they're mostly aluminum. You do have some operational parts here that would have to be maintained. But from my talking around the industry, that's my understanding. I have talked to other vendors out there that deal with grandstands, and essentially the choices are extremely limited. One of the major concerns here was portability. To be able to use these in multiple places, which was a significant factor in it. And this was really one of the only types that could be easily transported from point A to point B.
So even with the portability and, the equipment and maintenance that would be required, the life expectancy of these that we're looking at right now is about 20 to 30 years.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
Hugh, I have a little different question, and it goes back to Grant's suggestion about delaying this. I have 2 questions, one for the administration, one related to this contract. Talk to me about a January 1st or after price on this. and what your approach would be as if to this negotiated price if we wait until after the new year to make a decision on this? And secondly, is there a reason from an administrative standpoint that that decision needs to be made tonight? Or is the only risk price? And is that even a real risk, Hugh? You know they want to sell us the bleachers. A lot of times when you go back to them and say the board's not quite ready, but they expect you to hold this price, so they're going to look at other options that are cost a lot less right now, so you're risking losing the business. What are the chances this price stays the same?
Every vendor that I have talked to that has, particularly in the bleacher industry, because of the price of aluminum, even with scoreboards and other goalposts, goals, everything is January 1 has been used, or February 1 has been used as a point where they will be raising prices. So it's not just this particular company stating that. It has been said. I'm dealing that right now with some scoreboards on a project that the school district is not quite sure how they want to proceed, and I checked that with another source, and they confirmed that this particular manufacturer was going to up their prices. Come 2026.
Let me rephrase that before I let administration answer. So what did they tell you it's going to go to if we wait until January 1?
They won't, they do not tell you that. You push them, they may say 2-3%, but then they always coach it with it could be higher depending on quote unquote tariffs is the often most used thing. Also supply and demand as well.
I've found that they use that as an excuse to scare you into an early contract. And I'm not trying to be difficult, but I've dealt with enough of these that I typically find that they're willing to hold that price another 30 days beyond what they initially tell you. Have you approached that with them?
Not as of yet. It's been considered with other cases of items that we're dealing with. So I would think that would be a reasonable, if decided to go that route, that would be a reasonable route.
And did you say it could be January 1 or February 1?
I think they said January 1, if I remember correctly.
So to Mr. Welcome, with your question for us, we've been informed this entire way through working this that January 1 was the number that we were being told from an administrative standpoint. The other piece to this that is time-sensitive piece is the deliverability of the bleachers. Initially, we were being quoted November of 26, and after working back and forth with the company, with Hugh and Dr. Brossman, the quote that we have today stipulates July of 26 delivery. And that allows us to have it in time for the fall season. From a football and standpoint, we would not have had that if that other work wasn't done to get to that date. I don't know if it's delayed, if they'll be willing to still guarantee the July delivery, because it is subject on the ability of the aluminum. So, because it's crafted, customized, and built. It's not done a lot somewhere.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Cazzo?
I mean, my other statement or comment to Mr. Keener's point, would this board have an appetite, or they feel like it is worth asking, ELA and Hugh, you specifically, to go back on both those items from a cost standpoint, if we delay it and research some other options, and a delivery standpoint? Do we have a desire to meet between now and the end of the year to make a decision depending on the results of what Hugh finds? Is it worth that to us?
Yeah. I am not willing to vote in favor of this tonight. Now, there may be 5 votes with or without me, and again, that's the will of the board. If it turns out that this is the only viable option and we have to spend this money, I'll support it because I want bleachers and I want a student section. Those are both good things. I am not convinced that we have drilled down on all of the potential options here and thoroughly investigate it. I get the portability piece, but I'm not convinced the portability is as necessary as perhaps we thought that it was. And that it might actually be cheaper to just get multiple sets, get us through this process, and then we can, if we don't need them, we can liquidate them. I mean, we can sell them, we can do whatever, and I would just like to know what those alternatives would be. And speaking for myself, I'm willing to take a risk on, and I agree, Mr. Walgamuth, that there's probably some scare tactics play here about January 1st. I'm willing to roll those dice.
I mean, even at 2%, that's only $5,000,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, against 258,000. Personally, I'm willing to take that chance.
I have one other question for Mrs. James. Mrs. James, you mentioned that the bleachers that would be movable and moved to the high school stadium would have to be removed.
Yeah.
Every year, a
Yes.
certain time.
Yes.
So that's one set or both sets?
Well, the location that is being proposed for the bleachers to be placed is in an area where the is an area of jumping for the track
Okay.
team. So they would have to be removed from there in order for the track season.
So, okay, so my follow-up to that is, do you plan to put both sets there or just one set?
Both sets.
Okay.
For foot season?
Yeah,
Yes, both sets.
okay. And if they have to be removed, to your point, Mr. Keener, I agree with you that you can buy some sets, set them there and then junk them, but how does that address the stadium seating and the need to move those year over year? It
Yeah.
doesn't. That's probably the deal breaker for me.
Are we
But,
looking to have this recurring expense year over year?
Yeah,
If we have to trash these.
If we were just gonna put them there for a season and leave them there, and we just had to move them from one field to another, Mr. Keener's point, or if we were moving one set, I would say you buy one set and then you just buy stationary ones for the others and you sell them when you're done with them, or do whatever you need to, because that would be a less expensive option. But if you're planning to move both sets there and remove them every year, year over year, then it doesn't make sense to buy single sets and save those dollars. I'm not willing to wait on this decision, only because there is not really a good option. The only way I'd go on that, Hugh, is if you were going to be able to get a better price for us January 1, and I'm not hearing that.
Couple things. So we don't have the equipment currently to move the alternatives. However, if we're only moving them twice a year, 3 times a year, potentially hiring someone or renting that equipment, taking that into account is, over a 10-year, 20-year lifespan, how much does that cost? Additionally, I hate playing, couch quarterback, but I feel like based on my limited research, there are additional companies that make transportable grandstands. However, they are not apples to apples. Some of them you have to buy 2 units for every one of these, but they're like 1/4 of the cost. So in the end, we'd still be better off. But I also don't know, like, what other features do those have? Are they as portable and as easy to use as these other ones? So I feel like I'm with Mr. Keener. I'm not really in favor of moving forward with this tonight.
And just to these that are in question are an elevated bleacher. The others are at grade. So the elevated bleachers allows you for better viewing. Plus, also there's a platform in front that there is a concern with controlling the students with that too. So that was also a concern. Because when it comes to elevated bleacher types, these also are really one of the only ones that are available.
You mean keeping students safe?
Yeah, and keeping them,
Correct?
yes. Yeah, keeping them, yeah. It's just, it's basically to make sure they don't go onto the field or, and that the railing is there for that. And plus being elevated, it's up higher so that they can view the game. Otherwise, they'd be at ground level. At least the people in the front would be at ground level and wouldn't really be able to view anything. Um, plus, yeah, so that's another criteria that was put forth.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it is a higher quality bleacher. I can picture both sets of these. And I know one district that has these in the end zone. And they are a heavier bleacher. They do have the aluminum kind of railing in front of it. They do sit a little higher. Everything that's been shared is accurate. I don't love this price tag, to be honest, either, any more than any of the rest of you, but I think it's probably the right thing to do.
At this point, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to ask once again for a motion to approve this. And we'll see where that goes, whether we need to revisit it if it's rejected. Does that make sense? That's what I'm asking for. Is there a motion to approve this, accept the quote from Century Industries for the purchase of the bleachers?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Eshelman. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mrs. Small? Ms. Small? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion carries. All those opposed? 1,
Nay.
2, 3. Any abstention? No? Motion carries 5 to 3. Thanks for the math. Do you want the thanks to it or do you want? I think that's the end. right?
Thank you, Hugh.
Do
Yeah,
we
thanks,
need-
Hugh.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, good night.
Good night.
Following adjournment, the board will adjourn to an executive session for a quick safety and security update. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Best. All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.